Hey everyone, welcome to episode 242 of Rush Roundtable. Tonight's going to be an interesting one. We're kind of deviating away from the song discussions, but we're going to talk songs for sure. So tonight we have four of our regulars, I want to guess. You see them often. There's first off, we have Paul. You can call me Al Simon. I've got Rob. I swear I can play guitar. Bukta. Then there's David. I think therefore I am Utzler. And finally, Alex. Alex, I'm not Lifeson. Kelly. So, before we move on, we have to say, you know what, if you're enjoying our content that we try to put out every week, please subscribe, like, talk about it, share it. And if you feel like sending us some money, we'll gladly take it at Ko-fi. And then also support our sponsors that you'll see at the bottom at the links. So, now, we've all at some point heard a Rush song that went, wait a second, that doesn't feel like it should be on that album. It should be on another album. So let's talk songs that could be on the next album. Did I get that right? Yeah.
Close enough.
Close enough. Okay, we'll get there. So we're going to have a lot of discussions. So we're going to start it off with Mr. Simon. Paul?
All right. Well, I'm leaning heavily on the could part for mine. So my three I chose that jumped out at me. First one was Countdown. So to me, that could fit on Grace Under Pressure between the entire song building up in intensity. And actually, I almost consider it like a ramp up to the next album anyway. That distinct keyboard arrangement, the theme of pressure and intensity, the whole song has a feel of pressure to me. So I'm big on themes with songs and albums. I think it would fit the theme rather nicely. Our picks, by the way, could be for any reason. So mine, I happen to lean towards themes. You guys know from the roundtables.
Yeah, we should probably elaborate on that. There's no specific reason. It could be lyrics, could be music, could be, I just don't like that specific letter in the alphabet. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Well, I mean, every album was dedicated to a letter, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say, and this episode is sponsored by the letters at Val. Save that joke for another roundtable. My second one that jumped to mind was Cold Fire. I thought that it, while on Counterparts, it could fit on Test for Echo, as the whole theme of communication is pretty key on Test for Echo, and that's obviously the whole point of the song, is their communication or lack thereof, and how the protagonist and their significant other is thinking in very different terms. So that kind of jumped out. And plus, it could be interesting since, given how heavy some of the songs on Test for Echo were, like Time and Motion comes to mind, musically, if it was a little heavier in parts, it might have a little bit more punch to it. Not that it's hurting for it, but I think it'd be interesting to hear it in the style of some of the songs on Test for Echo. And given Neil's whole Freddie Gruber new technique style of playing, be interested to hear what the drums would be like for it as well. So it'd be interesting to see if Cold Fire is on Test for Echo.
It probably have a slight different feel.
Yeah.
With the percussions. Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, not so much of a country song. So and then my third choice was How It Is off Paper Trails. I kind of put it into a Snakes and Arrow context in that, like, the layered guitars, for starters, musically, I think it would be a beautiful fit because of all the layers that Alex hits on it and the playing. The lyrical theme, life on life's terms, as opposed to like how we wish it could be, that could very easily segue into the idea of faith and carry over into Snakes and Arrows pretty well. So those are my initial three, and we do have some honorable mentions I'm going to hold until the end. So those are my three. So Countdown, Cold Fire, and How It Is, I think would be interesting to hear versions of those on the next album.
Right, and we have to specify this is songs that could
album. I'm working the could angle big time.
Right,
I'm
but not
saying they
two or
belong
three
on
albums,
that.
But not two or three down the road, just a subsequent one, right? The next album.
One of my runner-ups is a cheat, but yes, it's one album.
We didn't discuss this pre-recording, though, Paul. I don't know.
No, I thought I'd just kind of bend the rules because of me. But anyway.
So, gentlemen, do you have any thoughts or on on Paul's choices
I was
before we
having a
move
hard
on?
time in my head. I wasn't really because I was really looking at counterparts and thinking, could anything be on Test for Echo? And when I was looking at all these albums, I was just seeing so many breaks, like hemispheres to permanent waves. I just saw that as a chasm. And I feel like I saw that with between counterparts and Test for Echo, but it's like, yeah, because I was looking at Cold Fire at one point, but I dismissed it. But it's like, yeah, that's a good point. Because yeah, obviously the idea of communication, it's like, duh.
I live in themes. You guys are going to have other excellent bridges to get us to the next album. That's just my go-to.
When Paul, you first said countdown on Grace Under Pressure, I kind of reacted, but then I thought that
Next.
actually kind of fits.
Mhm.
Because I mean, that was the first space shuttle lift, right? Such hopeful, joyful, super science, mingles with the bright stuff of dreams. But wasn't a few space shuttle lifts later that we had a tragedy? And that fits with the Grace Under Pressure, so it
Mhm.
tracks. Yeah. Good one.
Yeah, I had that one too. I countdown either between no, actually either after Distant Early Warning or before Between the Wheels in terms of sequencing on the record. So I resonate with Countdown. Like that'd be great to have on Grace Under Pressure just for those reasons. The thematic part of that, what the lyrics are saying in Countdown, then of course getting into Grace Under Pressure, that was really
Yeah.
a nice.
Kind of rethinking the song
Mhm.
in the context of Grace Under
Yep.
Pressure.
Yeah, that was a great pick.
And the history idea, David, excellent. I I didn't even think of that. That is a great fit then. So cool.
So, Rob, what are your three?
All right. So I have Making Memories from Fly By Night, and that could be on Caress of Steel. Could be, and I could say it should be, but it could be. So I'm going along with Paul with the idea of it could be on that record. And in terms of sequencing, I thought it'd be great to have that as a companion song, either before Lakeside Park or after. Because Making Memories was like the idea of, being on the road and all these things. And then Lakeside Park is more like a memory of Neil's childhood. So I thought those two would go great together. And the solos on both songs are killer. So you get to hear nice featured solos with Alex. I think even vocally, there's some nice timbres in both tunes that could seem to really sort of mesh very well. And it's a nice break too from the long song of on Caress of Steel, the sort of the long epic tune. So having those two songs together, either before or after each other, I think was a pretty cool pairing in my view. So that's my first choice. My second choice is Entre Nous on Two Moving Pictures. And I thought maybe having that song either before or after Limelight could be nice. Sort of a different polarity between, sort of like a Neil's sort of love song and then the idea of Limelight. Having that song before or after that song could be a nice sort of pairing of, I guess, like a duality, thematically, lyrically. So I had that as a choice. I just thought that those two could probably mesh very well as well. So that's something I thought could be placed on the next record, Permanent Waves into Moving Pictures. And then my final pick, excuse me, is Losing It from Signals. Could be on Grace Under Pressure. So I thought maybe that song could be put against After Image, or maybe even like a little bit later on. Losing it is, losing your abilities as we age. After Image, sort of the time passing between someone passing away. And the immediacy of that, I think that would be a nice sort of contrast lyrically if those two songs would sort of follow each other in whatever order, So I thought that could be a good song pairing for that. So those are my three picks. I have other ones too, but those are my choices.
So, it was Losing It, Entre Nous, and what was the first one again?
Making Memories.
Making Memories.
Right, from Fly By Night.
Right.
Interesting choices. Gentlemen, thoughts?
Making Memories. That was such a hopeful song, right? They just in their first major American tour, Manfred Mann, Uriah Heep, and all the other stuff. Maybe Road Life's Not So Bad. And then it became the Down the Tubes tour with Chris Steele.
Yeah.
So I like that sort of, yeah, choice. That was really good. And Losing It in Grace Under Pressure. Yeah, Rob, all your choices just were so good. So much I can say, but
Losing It, I was on board with all three, but Losing It, great closing pick there, so to speak, it being your third pick, because that I was listening like, yes, that's excellent. Yeah, that's good. Holy cow, that's really good. So
yeah.
Losing It, excellent choice.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, I thank the Triumvirate for writing those songs. Because they didn't do that, we wouldn't be here right now. So,
Well, I had Losing It as on my list too, like just before Between the Wheels. That's how I kind of looked at it. But me was more just musically. You guys look at it from themes and lyrics. I think more musically, like what would fit, like what has that sound that kind of travels, right? Because it's almost like they were always thinking ahead. They were changing and evolving, but they're always kind of thinking ahead to the next musical thing, right? But
yeah. Well, that was in the back of my mind too, is the sequencing,
Right.
like where would it go and make sense musically. So I'm glad you brought that up, Paul, because that was in my little noggin. Like, it's got to fit musically as well. It can't just be, oh, we just put it there, So that's a great point you brought up, Paul, because that's what I had in my head was like, well, where would it actually go on the album? That seems to make sense, so. Yeah.
All right. Well, next on the list here, we have Mr. Thinker himself, Mr. David Utzler. Your thoughts, David? What are your top
it's my
three?
turn. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to go back, and one of my choices, my first one, is Rivendell. Could have been on Caress of Steel. Now you think Rivendell's a happy song, if you know, of course, Tolkien and Rivendell, the City of the Elves. Caress of Steel is such a dark album, The Necromancer, right? But why I chose it is that, yeah, The Necromancer is dark, but it is a Tolkien themed song, clearly, but it ends happily with the three travelers, men of Willowdale, and then going to Rivendell. It would be a nice sort of juxtaposition. And, Bacchus Plateau is a very hopeful song after Panacea, which is kind of, bittersweet and sad. So that's my first. Vital Signs. Put it on Signals. It was the best closing song of that album, Moving Pictures. It was so good. But it also had a lot of synth, and just sort of an approach and attack that could have been reinterpreted in Signals and fit very well, with chemistry, right? And so then my last one, Mystic Rhythms. Could have been on Hold Your Fire. Mystic Rhythms is a primal song. It's about being primal. And Hold Your Fire is very much about instinct, primal life. So that could have fit very well. I didn't, unlike you guys that thought further ahead than I do, I didn't think about where it would fit on the album, but that it would. You think Tai Shan and
High
oh
Water.
gosh,
High Water.
High Water. Thank you. Only been listening to this stuff for 45 years. Mystic Rhythms fits with High Water so nicely in terms of that primal sense of our experience of the world around us. So those are my three.
So you had Rivendell, Vital Signs, and
Mystic Rhythms.
Thank you. my memories.
So it's not just me. Okay.
It's not just you. No. Actually, great minds think alike because I had Rivendell picked as one of my and Vital Signs also is one of my picks. But Vital Signs I picked because like early 80s, there was a lot of reggae influence, like the Police were into that. And Vital Signs, you really picked up on that, right? Like the influence. And they were kind of going, so that's to me, that's how it didn't fit in Moving Pictures. Like moving pictures itself is a it's a great, it's a weird album. Like the song structures are all over the place because you've got, you got Tom Sawyer, then you go over to Red Barchetta, Why Was He, and then Limelight and Camera Eye. Then all of a sudden at the end it's Vital Signs. You go, wait a second, this doesn't fit the rest. One of these things is not like the other. So that's how I saw
I
it.
think the bass riff that Getty does at the end of Vital Signs, right? And then I think of some of the bass riffs on Signals, especially in like Chemistry, especially Digital Man. Like there's some, cool.
I could see that. Gentlemen, any thoughts on David's choices?
Other than they suck.
No.
Well, I also said Mystic Rhythms for that same reason, basically. So I had that in my 3. So I got to reach into my list of more than 3 to sort of like who's bumped up in the batting order here. Yeah, I totally was thinking Mystic Rhythms. Like when I was going through that, it's just like, oh, duh, yeah, it's definitely.
And I didn't look over the entire discography, but the second, I wouldn't have thought of it, but the moment you said it, and then when you explained why, obviously being a theme junkie, I'm like, yeah, that's really good. So another excellent choice, and for all the right reasons.
Yeah. Well, speaking of choices, Alex, you're next up. You had told us how many you'd pick. You kind of overachieved. You kind of overachieved the assignment, but it's all good. We're gonna.
We haven't gotten
I wound up in going through there, just sitting. I mean, just regardless of records and tapes and discs and all that stuff, I actually just sat in front of Wikipedia and just went through every album. And as I say, just the analysis that we do anyway has me thinking of the production, how it sounds overall. It has me thinking of their themes. It has me thinking of the lyrics, and then you stop and think that it's like, well, this song goes with that. Well, yeah, it's because they did it back to back in a concert. So it's like at that point, because they play something from 1978 to 99 or 99 93 or something. Anyway, getting to it. So Distant Early Warning was my first, or I'll say it's my first choice right now, in so much as Power Windows. Distant Early Warning to me speaks to the whole fact that was exactly a Cold War song. The fact that you would have distant early warning stations to warn of any kind of, on our side of the globe, any Soviet first strikes. And in that case, Power Windows, mid 80s, having having that specter of nuclear war over us. Yeah. It's my go-to with that. And obviously when you think of production, I mean, the production's a bit different, certainly between Henderson and Collins, but I thought Collins would, he would produce it his way and it would have a bit of a different vibe. But since David stole my Mystic Rhythms, I'm actually gonna, as I say, I'm gonna bump a motion detector up to this part onto Hold Your Fire, because Hold Your Fire, as far as, to me, the idea that the theme of holding onto your fire, channeling your energy, acknowledging your, to me, it felt like a motion detector kind of reaches forward. I mean, and yeah, also, as you guys were saying, I mean, I actually have a post-it that's been sitting on the lower part of my monitor saying that in lieu of should, maybe we would use the phrase better too, for a less judgmental thought process. Because I was thinking in terms of could and alternate, not, and I was thinking in terms positively of, a song reaching forward into the future and not, should have been. So yeah, Distant Early Warning, motion detector, taking me to Ghost of a Chance, because Ghost of a Chance counterparts, much like Cold Fire, but Cold Fire is the argument between the people, perhaps. Ghost of a Chance, perhaps find someone to love and make it last. And then throw in a really cool fill after that B major 7 chord. Just saying. Because I had to, because of what I do.
That's what you do. Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
Nicely done.
I'm blown away. Alex, I think you picked the best. Period.
So Distant Early Warning, Emotion Detector, and Ghost of a Chance.
Yeah, I'm going with those. and I'm letting
Is
the
that
other
your
lists.
is that your final answer?
friend.
Yeah, until we get
Well,
to
we can have more discussion.
honorable mentions. Yeah.
But those
Just
are
an early
songs I
thing.
didn't have those on my list at all. So those are some awesome choices.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, your
Just an early
thoughts?
warning is Power Windows, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
That's
You
and
know,
Ghost of a Chance, considering that was that whole Presto Roll the Bones counterparts era was where I came into all this. That's outstanding. That is a great choice. That fits really well.
Well, I was looking at what on Hold Your Fire could be on Presto, and to me, I had one jumped up, and it's sitting in front of me, and I thought might be shoehorning it, but I feel like it could work. And then what on Presto could work on Roll the Bones? I got a couple that I'm like, eh. But then yeah, when I thought of Ghost of Chance, like, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good catch.
totally.
One of my runner-ups too, but we haven't gotten Paul's yet, so I'll still be quiet.
Well, you've already known two of mine. I mean, I picked Vital Signs, just for the musically, losing it also because it just has that, like Grace Under Pressure has that like a not a negative tone, but a kind of a somber, dark theme overall.
It's dark,
and I
It's got
found like
pressure
losing
to
it. This man, and just losing it just kind of follows that sound. It's like it's not depressing, but it's like a more of a negative, like end of life and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I looked at it. And we talked about songs that could easily go from one album to the next. And I'm thinking, when I heard Chain Lightning, I was like, that's on Roll the Bones because the sound is identical.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, both produced by the same producer, Rupert Hines. But they just, I find they have that same kind of, like you could easily throw it on Roll the Bones and it would just fit right in, just musically.
Yeah.
That was my three original choices. So, but I'm not basing it on lyrics or themes. It's more just musically, like what would sound. You know, like to me, Vital Signs doesn't sound like it should be part of that album. It's a great album, a great song, but this is real. It's almost like they were giving us a hint of what was to come with Signals.
I'll say that.
Right? Like and because even they've said we could have recreated Moving Pictures and written that for eternity, but they're like, nah, just change it up, you know. But those are my three choices.
I was thinking of Chain Lightning also, yeah.
Yeah.
It like you said, for the instrumental, just the production of it, just right away, it's just that felt like that could just be dropped into Roll the Bones, and there you go.
Right. You wouldn't even really kind of bat an eye at it, right? So now I'm sure we have all had some honorable mentions of songs that we haven't talked about yet. Does anyone want to kind of bring one or two up that could make us go, ooh, never thought of that one?
I have a hot take.
Oh, all right, Paul, go right ahead.
So we'll do this kind of lightning round, so we're not suddenly at an hour's time or something.
That's all good.
I got three runner-ups, and two of them I can nail in one sentence. Second Nature, because of the warm synth, distinctly clear percussion. The theme kind of fits into Presto's Perception theme. I just think it'd be tucked away nicely on Presto. I think it would work. Warpaint is my cheat. I would skip Roll the Bones. I think Warpaint would have sounded incredible on Counterparts between theme and to hear Peter Collins' production on that. Bombastic drums, powerful, and Caveman's engineering. I would love to hear it. So that's my guilty pleasure. My hot take would be Far Cry, putting it on, and this is the one I have sequenced. Musically, it does not fit Clockwork Angels, but I think with some tweaks, thematically, I think Far Cry with a few lyric tweaks would fit in nicely after the Wreckers, because Owen starts off the story, he's all hopeful, his life is very, very set in how it's supposed to be, and by the time a lot of bad things happen to him, and then a lot of exciting things happen as well, his life is nothing like what he thought it was going to be. So thematically and lyrically, Far Cry being, and like I said, musically, I think they're oil and water, but if there was a way to introduce it, that would be
Far Cry and Headlong Flight musically.
nice.
Yes.
that
100%.
would help it fit. So just throw them out there. We don't have to do a big discussion on it, but thank you. That is a great way of.
And I'm sure if get an hour watching, they're going, "What are these
What the
guys
hell
thinking?
are these
That's
guys
dumb."
If, yeah.
If
Hey,
So yeah,
But if you are, hey.
those are my honorable mentions.
It's interesting choices, Paul. I like them. Rob, do you have any that?
yeah, I got a couple. Middletown Dreams, I thought could be great to have on Hold Your Fire. Before or after mission. I'm always in this before and after thing, but that's what I had in my brain for this stuff. So. And let's see, what else? Kid Gloves, I thought would be great to have that on Power Windows. After Territory, so a little more specific. I thought that'd be kind of a good placement for it on the record. And also Lakeside Park on 2112 After Lessons.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Before Tears.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Lakeside Park on 2112 too at one point.
Yeah.
Though I know for me, I was thinking I'd love to see the song Carnies on the actual next album titled Revenge of Slobovich. But
Nice.
if the guys are watching, Revenge of Slobovich, it's all yours.
Yeah.
That's
Revenge
free.
of Slobovich.
That's
Although
genius.
you want to give me a guitar pick or something, that's fine. But no, actually, honestly, I was titling, and in one case, Working Them Angels would be so obvious to be on Clockwork Angels, but by the fact that it actually is titling the Angels, but you stop and think that as far as the lyrics, driving away to the east and then into the past, history recedes in my rearview mirror. Once again, lyrical tweaks just made me think of the character of Owen possibly going through some of his strife as far as, in the that other town, or when he was looking for the 7 cities of gold. As far as the storyline goes, I thought, like I say, it's a little on the nose for the title, but the tweaks of lyrics could be shifted into Clockwork Angels, I think, pretty easily around, like I say, Carney's and 7 Cities of Gold area.
Owen Hardy was working those Clockwork Angels.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
On that same
didn't
vein,
know
I had put aside Spindrift to go on Clockwork Angels, but musically, but not thematically, it might even work too. So,
One of my favorite songs off Snakes and Arrows, so I won't argue.
yeah, right. Anyone else? David, Alex, any other songs that would just blow our minds here?
I've said too much.
Other than a few, I've noticed most of the songs are B-side or towards the end of the album. Is it just me?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Other
No
than-
openers, no album
like-
openers.
Just an early
Well, no,
warning.
this an early
beat
warning.
off, but
No,
Mystic Rhythms had a video.
Yeah.
But
One
end of
thing
the
I want
album,
to say
right?
is that I meant to say this earlier. I don't like the idea of songs that should have been. I don't like that kind of absolutist thing,
Good.
but could have been, I'm okay with. So any of my choices do not have a absolutist moral ought. It should have been.
Yes.
But could. And one of my choices was Driven from Test for Echo, could have been on Vapor Trails. Musically.
Yep.
And think about it. Driven was, and I love, if you've seen our viewers' previous episodes where Donna has talked about the song Driven. It's one of her favorites, Donna Halper, where she talks about now it's my turn to drive, right? And it's like so many things, just, black ice and all that, not in control, but it's my turn to drive. I want to be in control. Vapor Trails is so much about Neil not having control, so I think Driven could have been Animate, which I think Counterparts is one of the most perfect albums ever constructed. Animate would have been kind of cool on Test for Echo, just because it's heavy driving, it's awesome. And last one without explanation, Red Tide. Bump that up to Roll the Bones.
Okay.
Coupling it with Heresy.
Yeah.
Interesting choices. The only one I
Or totally
kinda
insane
put on-
ones, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking Cygnus X1, Book 1 and Book 2. Put them on the same album, for the love of God. Why make me wait an album to get the second part of it? But
Yeah,
that's
Kenny
just
would probably kill you if you did that.
It's the
What's that?
kind of
I gotta see all
practical
that.
thinking that
Oh my
makes
God.
this a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Well, that's where Rush could have just said, well, Tales from Topographic Ocean, song, 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 song. They could have done the same thing.
That's right.
right. Any other thoughts, gentlemen, before we close it off for the evening?
I had,
No?
I had a little cheat I was going to do. I was going to take maybe a song off of Victor and My Favorite Headache and see which ones would fit on the records of that time period.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was another cheat I thought of. Like, I could probably do that. Like, no, I'm going to stick with the Rush albums that I have that in my brain. So I'll follow the assignment.
Maybe an idea for another episode.
I mean, recently Victor just got re-released on vinyl, so I mean, it's
So My Favorite Headache. Same day.
It's right. Yes, it did. Yeah. Well, with that, if we don't have anything else, we're gonna thank everyone for hanging out with us, having this great discussion. We invite you to subscribe, like our content. Feel free to put a comment. What are your top 3 songs that you think could/should, whatever word you want to use, on the next album? I'd be really interested to see that. And don't forget to help us out with Ko-fi and to support all of our sponsors who are ever so kind to us. So with that in mind, next week, it's going to be fun. A few of us are heading down to Niagara-on-the-Lake for the annual Neil Peart Foundation golf tournament. So it should be an interesting trip. It's going to be fun. Oh, and we're also going to go visit Rush Day at Henderson Brewery in Toronto. So with that in mind, everybody,
Say hi to us.
Simon?
We will see you there. Say hi to us.
Oh, gosh, yeah, we'll be there all day. So it should be fun if you're there. All right. With that, everybody, thanks a lot. Have a good night.